Hey everybody, and welcome back to my channel where today we are going to be doing a recent reads. I haven't done one of these in a while, partially because I was on vacation for a couple of weeks and then we came back and I just really haven't had time to film. So I'm trying to play catch up because I didn't stop reading and so I don't really want to get buried by the amount of books I haven't yet talked about. So I'm going to go ahead and in this video I'm going to talk about the 4 books I've read, and 4 of the books that I read, and then 2 DNFs, and then I'll get caught up to where I was at the start of the Aurelium readathon, and that should be really helpful for my own sanity. But to jump right in, we are going to start with The Monsters We Defy by Leslye Penelope. And this is adult historical fantasy heist. It's a heist. And we're following our main character of Clara, who has the ability to see spirits in the spirit world. So like ghosts, or well, it's, I don't know if it's like ghosts, but they are dead people. But it becomes very obvious to her very quickly that things are not quite all right in the spirit world, and also there's other things that are not quite right in her world either. And so when one of the spirits comes to her and asks her to steal an object that should help everything right itself, Clara goes ahead and agrees, and she has to put together a crew and figure out how to steal this object when she is not a thief. And the story goes from there. This was really interesting. I liked Clara as a character, and I loved her backstory. Her backstory was great. And I loved her interactions with the other crew members, and like the other characters we got felt so different from each other. And so even if I didn't totally like love each character, I was just like, this feels really nice and pretty well balanced, which was great. And also, like I said, their interactions with each other were really fun. It was also, the setting of this is like 1920s, I believe, in Washington, D.C., which was super interesting. I don't know that I've ever read anything set in that time period in that place, which was really great. And I also enjoyed watching this heist, and it did follow some pretty normal heist beats for a story, but it felt really interesting and new because they're amateurs. They don't actually know quite what they're doing, and so they're trying to figure it out, and like anytime there's a setback, it's like a big deal for them. And I just genuinely enjoyed watching them figure out how to steal this object. It was just really good. The one critique that I have of this book, and in the beginning it wasn't actually a critique, but it's really interesting. We'll meet a main character in the primary storyline, and then the next chapter will have like a backstory chapter for that character. And so, which I think is actually really fascinating. It would be like 4 or 5 pages just of their, like a sum up of their life story to this point. And I actually really like that. I'm like, I don't think I've read a book that has done this before, and it's an interesting way to handle it, and I love having the backstory, so I'm down with this. However, it tapered off, but didn't stop until I think too far into the story. Because, you know, in the middle, that's when you're really starting to ramp up towards the end, and you're getting more and more action, and things are getting faster. Like, things are moving faster, but we were still occasionally getting some of these chapters, and ultimately, like, especially with the very last chapter that did this, I was just like we were starting to go really fast, and I was into it, and then it felt like a pause to get this backstory that ultimately I don't think we really needed for the story, and so it just slowed everything way down. It was still a really good story. I just kind of wish that it had stopped, that part of it had stopped a little sooner. I think it would have made for a stronger book. But ultimately, I really like this, and I ended up giving it 4.25 stars. And then I picked up The Con Job by Matt Forbeck, which is a Leverage tie-in novel. So if you don't know, Leverage is a TV show that follows 5 criminals as they form like a super group to basically take down corrupt CEOs. And I love this TV show. It's like one of my very favorite TV shows, and it's very, very cathartic. So I got sent this as a gift for my birthday, and as soon as I got it, it was just like, well, yes, I will be reading that basically right now. And so I did. And I definitely went in with correct expectations for this, which is that tie-in novels are almost never super amazing. And so I didn't expect anything super high quality. And it's not. Like, the writing is a little hacky, and there definitely needed to be some editing. And like some of the characterization I didn't totally agree with. And also I didn't love the fact that, like, for people that don't watch the show, we had to give a lot of background information. And I was just like, yes, I know. But it was a really fun storyline. And there were some like fun, we got to see some of our favorite characters return. And it was what it was meant to be, right? It's just a really fun time. And I had a fun time reading it. So even though I don't think it's super high quality, and I don't think you should necessarily read it unless you love the show like I do, I still enjoyed it. And I ended up giving it 3 stars. And then I picked up Book Lovers by Emily Henry. And this is an adult contemporary romance. And I apologize, but I do not remember the names of the characters in this book, because I read it long enough ago that like it's just completely escaped. But essentially we're following 2 main characters. The first one, our female main character, is a literary agent. And our second main character, the male main character, is an editor. And essentially our female main character is roped into a like month-long vacation with her sister to this tiny little town. And who does she run into but her nemesis, the male main character? And through an interesting situation, they actually have to work on a book together, and sparks fly. I'm going to say that I really liked this book, like surprisingly so. The biggest draw for me for this was the chemistry between the 2 main characters and their banter back and forth. So as they're talking, they have a style of like banter that I really appreciate, where it's a little bit over the top, outlandish, and a little sarcastic. It was just genuinely so fun, and like something that was genuinely familiar to me. And I loved it. I loved it. And I really liked that they did the like mature adult thing, where they weren't like, oh, I couldn't possibly have feelings for this person. It was much more of the, oh God, I have feelings for this person. How am I going to deal with this? And I really liked it. I loved how like they handled it and they interacted with each other, and it was just really, really fun. So that portion of it, that romance portion of it, was really good. I really liked it. However, there was a B plot that I did not appreciate nearly as much, partially because it's kind of a mystery thing where something is going on with another character. And Nora I think, is that her main name? I think the female main character's name is Nora. Maybe I'm making something up. I don't actually know. But our female main character jumps to conclusions about what is going on with this character in a way that I just could not go along with her. It was like, you are clearly leaping to conclusions because you have anxiety about this, but like, I don't think that you're on solid ground here, and I am not going along with you for this ride. And because the mystery was introduced so early but not solved until like at the end of the book, I just found it irritating, because I was just like, it was kind of like, oh, okay, we're dealing with this topic again. Okay, I guess. And so I really just did not like that. The other thing that I didn't necessarily appreciate as much was that our female main character would kind of get philosophical about her life, which I'm actually down for to some extent in most books, because like I do want my main characters to like grow and change over the course of the novel. but could you do it in a couple pages or a couple paragraphs? Our main character took multiple pages sometimes, and it was too much for me, especially at the end of the book where I'm like, good, sweetie, that's great that you're growing and changing, but could we get back together with the male main character? Could we get to that part? That would be great. And so it read, because of those two things, it did feel like this book was a little bit slow. And I would have appreciated like some work with those two things. And it kept me from like fully loving this book the way that I wanted to, but I still really liked it. And I ended up giving it 4 stars. And then I picked up Rafe by Rebekah Weatherspoon, which is another adult contemporary romance. And I actually listened to this on audiobook, and it is about Rafe, who is a male nanny. And I don't remember the female main character's name, again, who is a doctor, and she really needs to find somebody to look after her twin girls. She finds Rafe, who is amazing with them, and he becomes their live-in nanny, and sparks fly. So here's the thing. I was really excited for this because that sounds so very sweet, and so many people have loved this book. And then I started reading it, and I genuinely didn't really feel like they had a ton of chemistry. They definitely were like lusty for each other, which was totally fine, but they like, we didn't really get to see those sweet little moments of just them being a couple, not having sex, just like talking with each other about something deep or something shallow. It doesn't matter. You just have those sweet moments with couples, and I love those parts, and I feel like we didn't get any of that. And so I just didn't buy into their romance pretty much at all. And so with this kind of thing, you kind of have to buy into the romance to buy into the story as a whole. I didn't find like the non-romantic storyline to be all that compelling, in part because I didn't buy into the romance. And so while I thought a lot of it was fine, there wasn't anything that really worked well for me. And so while I can see why others might like it, it wasn't for me. And so I ended up giving this 3 stars. It was fine, but I wish it was a little bit more up my alley. And then I had 2 books that I DNF'd, and we're going to go through them really quickly. I had a lot more DNFs, but we're only going to talk about 2. But the first one is Hummingbird, Salamander by VanderMeer. And I only wanted to mention this because if you have this on your TBR, you're looking to read it, just know that the writing style is very interesting. This author loves commas, and it was like, I only made it 7 pages in, and there were sentences that I was literally reading out loud and trying to figure out what they meant, and like pausing whenever there was a comma like you're supposed to, and the sentence was so chunked up to the point where it was difficult for me to understand what was being said. Now, that's not necessarily to deter anybody, but just to set your expectations that this writing style may or may not work for you, and you may have to like spend some time getting used to it. It didn't work for me. I DNF'd it after 7-ish pages. And then the other book that I DNF'd is Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes, which is adult science fiction horror. And I actually made it 185 pages into this. It's essentially like there's a small little it's a crew in a spaceship that's like working on communication satellite things, but they pick up a distress signal of this huge starship that's like, or spaceship that's like basically the Titanic kind of thing that had disappeared so many years ago. And so they go investigate, and it's a horror, so it goes very wrong. And what I realized was that I don't think horror is generally for me, because I can get down with a really cool storyline and a really cool setting, but there's so much time that's spent like building the suspense and building the tension, and those are the parts that I find utterly boring because I don't generally get scared when I'm reading. And so I'm sitting here just like, okay, yeah, we get it, like skip ahead. But we're not going to, because the whole point of the story is to do that tension building and that and really go for like the big horror parts of it. And so like I just don't think horror in general works for me. I'll still pick up some because like I know that some of them are still going to be just fine for me to read, but mostly I think that I'm not going to keep trying to read a ton of horror anymore. But if you like horror, this may work better for you. But I DNF'd it. So that is it. Those are the things that I wanted to talk about in this video. Just as a preview for next time, I already have enough stuff that I've read and DNF'd to make another video immediately. So that'll be coming up. It's mostly, there's a lot of comics in there. And then one DNF, which is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I've already DNF'd that book. There's your little preview for next time. But if you have any thoughts or feelings about any of the books that I mentioned in this video, please leave me a comment down below. But that's it. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you want to, and until next time, have happy reading, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!